faced Belichick a few times. What are the challenges of a prep week against him, and then maybe how it might change on Sundays?
Yeah, I mean, you can prepare for a lot of things, but everything could change in the game or before the game or halftime, third quarter, fourth quarter. They have a lot of scheme they can get to. They're very well prepared, very well coached, and you got to be kind of ready for every coverage, pressure, zero, drop eight, a lot of different things. A lot of respect for Coach Belichick. He's best coach in the history of the game, I think.
Bill's famous for taking away what opposing teams do best. I mean, you still had Devontae, likely he tried to take away 17, but with how your offense is evolving, what do you think he'll try to take away this?
I'm not going to give him any ideas, but I'm sure he'll look at what he thinks we do best and try and take away first and second options, and then have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D that I'm sure he hopes he doesn't get to, but I'm sure they'll have a great plan for us.
How much in-game adjusting do you do in a week when you play Bill versus normal?
Oh, I mean, I think I'm always looking for in-game adjustments. I like to tease our staff sometimes when they make an in-game adjustment at halftime. Get really excited. There's some people that believe in, it's like momentum. Some people believe in momentum, some people don't. Some people believe in halftime adjustments, some people don't. So it just depends on what do you even classify, the definition of a halftime adjustment at times. But we're always making adjustments and tinkering and tiny little things to try and improve plays, both in the heat of the battle and then off on the side and at halftime and a bunch of other times.
Matt said he had a direct conversation with Bach about how he's been feeling this week. Have you, obviously you guys are good friends, but have you had a chat? Just how's he feeling? How's things going?
I don't want to talk for Dave. I'll let Dave do all the talking. He's got big mouth and enjoys using it, so I'll let him answer that question. But he seems in pretty good spirits.
Aaron, you gave the Charles Woodson comparison for Rasul. Does Rashawn Gary remind you of anyone, and what do you just think of the role he's taken on for this team?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. He's a different body type. He's got a great motor. He's been productive every single game. I think he's had a sack every game. He's been in the backfield a bunch. He's tough to block, and he's earned that respect now where he's getting chipped on a lot of plays. And the slide's going his side, so a lot of credit to how hard he's worked. And when he came in, he was kind of a one-trick pony. He had kind of some speed, and he started developing the power, and then he developed the moves, and then he became really tough to block.
Aaron, what's Jude on in particular? Was that?
Yeah, he's a great player. He's got 3 sacks, and 91's got 4, so they got a good pass rush. Plus, they give you a ton of different looks, with empty pressures and adjustments and checks of their own, delayed blitzes, spying, a lot of different things they can do. So it's, we got to be aware of where he's at because he's a game record.
How close is Robert, do you think, to the touchdown season type of player he's been?
Bobby?
Yeah.
I think it's just confidence for both him and Elton and Dave as well. When you come back from an injury, whether it's at 9 months or 12 months or however many months, that's a significant injury, and it's, I think Bobby's getting close to that feeling that he felt a few years ago where he's dangerous after the catch. He's got good moves, and he can also put his head down. But I just want to see him get even more comfortable putting that foot in the ground and cutting off it and then making some guys miss after the catch. And I think he's getting close to that. He's feeling better. He's doing some really instinctual things out there, and it's just kind of the next step is the last little bit of confidence.
I think it could be human nature coming off a big win, a week away from going to London, facing a backup quarterback off with Matt Jones' injury, to have a letdown. Has there been a conscious effort to be verbal with your teammates to make sure that doesn't happen?
No, because we don't talk like that in the locker room. That's outside the locker room fodder. Nobody ever talks about letdowns or emotional setbacks or trap games or any of the code words you guys use. We have a standard at which we play, and that's the standard. If it dips below that, we don't attribute that to anything other than the preparation we put in, the way we practiced, and the focus for that game. So I know those are fun code words for you guys to use, and I respect them. And shoot, I've heard him, being a fan of the game for a long time, but we just don't approach it that way.
Practice
by
stuff.
design, or now you're getting the ball out quicker than you have in the past. First Sunday with Dave, last Sunday, do you think that helped him just kind of reacclimate himself at all?
I think it helps all the guys. I mean, Dave's always getting on me about holding the ball too long or dropping too deep in the pocket. So I definitely wanted to get the ball out against those guys. And a lot of the stuff is get the ball into our guys' hands and let them go. That's why the ball was coming out quick. It was shorter passes. They're great tackling, but we wanted positive plays. We want those third and manageable, which we hadn't really in the first half. That's why we went 5 for 7. Second half was a lot of third and 8, 9, 10 plus because we didn't have those first and second down kind of quick 5-6 yarders that we had in the first half. So that was the goal, and we just kind of got away from that a little bit in the second half.
The practice style changed this week a little bit. Obviously, today more of the walk-through, draw-through type. Was that something were you in that conversation about, that the workload, and Coach had said the workload had just been a lot recently, that just want to maybe tone it down a little bit?
Yeah, I was in that conversation.
Aaron,
Sounds like it might be Brian Hoyer for them at quarterback Sunday. Just curious if you have any kind of relationship with him or how well you know him.
Yeah, I've known Brian a little bit over the years through him being a part of the Derby cruise. When he goes to Tom, I really like Brian. He's a good dude. He's been around the league for a long time. Obviously, he's had some stretches as a starter with a lot of success, but he's around the league because he's smart. He knows the schemes that he's in, and he can come in and execute as well as they want him to. So I have a lot of respect for Brian.
Aaron, on timeouts, what is the thinking there for you when the clock is running low on when you use one, maybe when you try to just get the ball lay off, maybe you actually take a delay? What's the kind of the thinking there though in those final moments?
Quarter, momentum, D&D, score of the game, and then the feasibility of getting us into some positive play. So you hate using them like we used a couple in the first half. Second half, you'd really think about what can I get us into in that situation to get a better play. But there's certain situations in scores, in momentum times where it is better to, have a conversation on the sideline, make sure we got the perfect call, and then and regroup instead of trying to force something. Sometimes there's a look that they give us on defense that we just can't block up, or it's going to be a negative play, and there's not anything really to get into based on the formation we're in. And you got to burn one and get in a better formation and change it up. But it's a field. You take in all those factors.
Does the left tackle rotation change anything for you as a quarterback?
No, I think both guys had nice performances on Sunday, and it's a good problem to have.
Aaron, Matt was saying on Monday that it was really frustrating for him with the offensive coaches that you guys couldn't get anything going in the second half. They said, we're getting out-coached because nothing was working. I'm wondering, having played as long as you have, how big is the challenge to adjust in-game? Like, you can come up with a great game plan, but if they do something you're not expecting, obviously that's what kind of the games are won and lost. What's that process like, and how big of a component is that in winning a game?
I think one of the most difficult things is to have a great first 15 or first 20, and then be able to transition out of that, because there's going to be adjustments made to those first plays, and a lot of times there's designer plays in those first 15 or 20 that are not repeat calls. So you have to have a good bank of legitimate staples that you can get to, and adjustments, plays that are multi-dimensional. You can run it against one-eye, two-eye, man, zone principles, and then be able to roll through some of that stuff. I think in the game we had a nice start. We had a good first 15 to 25 ideas, and then they adjusted and went to a lot more man coverage, and we just didn't maybe make enough adjustments. At the same time, we had some positive plays and some opportunities, and had some penalties that hurt us and took us out of drives. We had that weird backed up situation where we had a run into the kicker and then a penalty where we had the ball around the 30, plus 30, and ended up getting on the minus 35, and that obviously took points off the board. But it's understanding, okay, we start with this, we get after them, how they're going to adjust, and then having a plan for that part as well. Sometimes we do, we just don't execute it. I felt like we had some decent calls and just didn't get it done.
I know that it's a game-to-game thing, but have you seen Matt, who's never been a head coach before, grow in these 3+ years in terms of being able to do that effectively?
Well, I joke about the halftime stuff, but The most important conversations are really those player-to-player conversations, where you can have the little subtle adjustments between myself and the receivers, myself and the backs, myself and the line, to be able to get us in and out of things a little bit quicker is important. And it's talking about the looks that we had, it's talking about the pressures and adjusting to those, because this scheme or this system hasn't been a big adjustments at halftime type thing. It's just trusting the scheme and the stuff that we have in the hopper to pull back out. But I think I've seen a lot of growth in those areas, as less reliant on scheme at times and more creative with some adjustments, not just at halftime, but in all the quarters. When we're talking on the sidelines, making little subtle adjustments and then just trusting that that's going to work.
How does it feel to have the special teams player of the week in your locker room? It's been a while.
It's been a while. He's a pretty good punter. Happy he's on our team. He's got a hell of a head of hair, and he's a good presence in our locker room. And he's kind of happy to be on this side of the border.
Has it been different adjusting, running consistently into an 8-man type of defense where in the past normally audible out, or just that wouldn't probably even be a consideration to run in that situation?
Which 8-man box?
Like when they stack the box with, like Tampa did, trying to run against that type of defense, and you guys still try to slam it in there.
I mean, I didn't see a lot of stack the box in the game. I mean, there was a few points, but this scheme has the ability to run the ball against 8-man fronts, booking a guy in the backside. I mean, but most schemes do as well, so I'd love to see some more 1-high, though.
Aaron, Pat's hair notwithstanding.
Great hair. Him and Mace.
You always talk about wanting to just break even on special teams for so many years. Do you think you've kind of crossed over into the point where it really could be all season long? There's a long way to go, where it could actually help you, and how much better does that make everybody's life, yours and everybody else, if special teams can do that for you?
Well, it's nice, just to break even, but if you think about the way we played, we have 3 legitimate teamers, I would say. Ford, and you watched him as a gunner, showing up multiple times. Dallin, who flies down on kickoff, plus he's a coach on the field, getting everybody lined up. And then Keyshawn. And Keyshawn goes out and plays 60 snaps on defense and balls out, forces a fumble, makes a lot of plays. But that's 3 legit teamers who can all, in their own right, probably play on defense, but really bring a lot to the teams, and it ups the entire focus and energy and approach to special teams when you have legitimate teamers who take that really, really seriously, and that's their entire game. Now you look at a guy like Tipo, who's flying down on kickoff, flying down on teams, and balling out. You see the young defensive lineman, out there on punt team and kickoff, embracing his role. You're seeing starters on those as well. You're seeing our starting corners locking down guys on punt team, smash on the kickoff team. You watch the onside kick, and you got Rasul Douglas and Sav, both making great blocks on that. We're literally bypassing the ball. Sav drills a guy, Rasul pops a guy, and then Allen just has a little candy hop to him. The team's a little different around here, and it's a nice change.
Clay Matthews, you said in your time, favorite Clay story?
That I can share?
Yeah.
My favorite memories from Clay are off-season Clay. In-season Clay was obviously incredibly talented and focused, but there were a lot of days where, he was kind of like a angry bear, and you wake him up and snap on you. But off-season Clay, man, we used to have a workout group with him and his younger brother, Casey, and Dave. And off-season Clay is like wakes up every single day is the best day of his life, and he nonstop ripping on everybody in the gym, mostly myself and Dave, getting his brother in on it. But yeah, a lot of love for Clay. I loved having him in the locker room. Very good impressionist. Used to give some great impressions of myself and AJ and Brady Papinga, Kevin Green, RIP. But off-season Clay at the old Proactive was a lot of fun.
You were asked about Romeo after the game. Now that you've got a chance to reflect, how did you think he did, and Is he a guy who's worthy, assuming he keeps trending, is he a guy who's worthy of being one of the guys going forward, early in January?
I mean, he's going to be one of the guys. We got, 4 or 5 guys who are going to get a lot of opportunity, especially now with Sammy out. I thought he caught the ball well with his hands. I think he needs to just continue to trust himself, as he watches the film back, to catch and run out of it and secure the football. Obviously, there was a ball came out on his first catch, but he's making enough mistakes to learn from them, and he does. And he's making enough positive plays to have those anchor points of positivity. We can think back about the plays that he made that were really, really solid plays in the game. So he's a great kid, cares about it, catches the ball with his hands, and I think this is we're just starting to see the possibilities. There's a lot of growth for him to come.
Aaron, how much do you prepare for these Wednesday sessions at your life? Do you prepare for them? What you're going to say and answer?
For this session?
Yeah.
No, Tom gives me a little sheet of paper with some ideas about what questions. I usually peruse them. Tom, I do. But, I know what's out there because Tom doesn't leave me alone on some specific things he really feels like I need to see, which usually gets swiped left and red button pushed. But no, I enjoy the conversation. I've been doing this long enough. I have an idea. You can ask about, Bill, and ask about their defense, and ask about a couple of specific guys. And if Stephanie's here, you know what questions she's going to ask. You get used to the flow. Mike's going to do a 10-second, 50-second lead in on his question. Spoon's going to jump in right at the end.
That takes me that long to come up with a question. What's the point?
You got a haircut. You're looking good, man.
What's the point of no return when you call timeouts before a play? So
what's the point of no return?
When you can do it and when you can't.
Well, here's what happened on the first one. We were on a long cadence in the silent count, and Josh got up and was making a bunch of calls, right? Which you don't really want to do. So by the time we got into the possibility of snapping the play, there was 9 seconds on the clock with 3 head bobs coming. That's not enough time because they were in a pressure look where I was going to have to make an adjustment. And the second one, we were just totally missing line. We were supposed to be in a 1-by-3 formation. A couple guys went the wrong way. By the time we got lined up, I was thinking, all right, what can I get to in a 2-by-2 with a stack on the weak side now? Wasn't worth it. So you just, like I told you, you just have to gauge the situation, how much you need the timeout in that time. What's the value of taking a timeout? Does it override the value of just trying to get to something quickly in that moment? Momentum, where you are in the field, and what the score is in the game.
If I can follow up.
Go ahead.
Did you ever have that situation that Brady had where they have instant replay and they, it says 25, but they bring it down to 20 because they just reviewed it, the touchdown, and you're aware that it's 20? I mean, have you ever had a situation where it got really low on you?
I've had situations where they've done a late review and the ref will say, hey, I'm not pumping this back up at 25. This is at 17. You better be ready. Or this is at 12. You better be ready. Your eyes are always on that. It's pretty normal to look over them and give them the pump up signal, like, hey, come on, put it back up at 25. But we know one of the most difficult situations with the new way they're doing the clock is that touchdown to 2-point conversion time frame, because they want to get that ball snapped. So we better celebrate quickly, get back into a formation, get a call, and be ready to go. Otherwise, it's going to get down on the clock, and we might be up against it.
Aaron, speaking of the clock, there was a lot of discussion about the lag time between the clock hitting 0 and I feel like, what was it, a decade ago that we talked about that, and you said that there was the lag time. Mm-hmm. Were you ahead of the curve on that, and the rest of the league has finally realized that? Because that's like old school. That was not new to you. I know not to you, but to anybody that heard that over 10 years ago.
Well, I mean, I'd always asked about it because I was interested in how tightly they're gonna police that. I think there was a time where there were certain crews who would, right at 0, go right to the flag, but the common knowledge was that there had to be a fully at 0 and an understanding that it was at 0 by the back judge in order to throw that flag. And we've been up against it for a long time. There's been a few that, probably were really, really close. I don't feel like there was too many that that we kind of abused that pause in between the zero and the flag. But yeah, I've just known about it because we have refs that come in every single training camp, and those are some of the questions that I enjoy asking about.
Two more for him. The other day, you said that you called plays for Flynn. So on Twitter, Flynn said that he audibled most of those. I'm just wondering how many of those. Is that an accurate assessment by your former back?
Probably is. I saw some of those back. I mean, look, we ran, like I said, we ran a screen pass to RG, and I think the receiver blocked, and nobody else did. Flynn hit an offsides for a touchdown. He hit a empty pressure for a touchdown. He hit a fade to J Mike for a touchdown. I didn't have to do a whole lot, just give him some simple stuff. Matty knew the offense well. It was a lot of fun to be a part of that. But yeah, I'm sure he audibled out of quite a few of them because he learned from me.
The 2-point conversion, care to clarify, like your post-game interview, I missed Pat's show yesterday. I don't know if you were on yesterday.
I did clarify yesterday.
You did yesterday? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I had nothing to do with the 2-point conversion.
No.
Much before that.